Compart North America. John had mentioned that Compart is located in their headquarters is in Berblingen, Germany. My son loves to come with me whenever we go to Germany. He doesn't get to come often, but it's right at the world automobile market. So he gets to see all the really neat cars like Ferraris and so forth that run test tracks at night around our office building. So it's a pretty interesting place. If you get a chance to go, which we have Comparting every year in November, where all of our customers head out to Germany, great place to look. So what we're going to talk about today is the environment that we have, and what John was talking about and then Skip earlier is all about pretty much disruption. I mean, we've got disruption going on in lots of things, and the only thing we're trying to do is communicate with our customers. And it's really kind of, not so much difficult, it's just there are so many more options that are available now than there ever have been in the past. And that can cause chaos to the IT group and to business owners and to lines of businesses and so forth. What are some of the disruptors we're seeing? So the first three we talked about already, and John and Skip did a great job on the CCM, CXM, digital transformation, the convergence of that, digital first, API integration, all of these things are big. What we're also seeing is consolidation. So there are a couple of areas that my customers tell me they're hit with mostly, and that's in mergers and acquisition activity, as well as in your other kinds of technology providers also are buying each other up. Document composition is one of the ones that we've seen. So because of this, we need to make sure that the information we're sending to our customer is branded properly and that the information gets through to them that there was a merger, there was an acquisition, and this is where you send your payment, or this is how you get your information from now on from us. There was a document composition tool that is going now from version 9 to version 16, I see Raj shaking his head, due to some consolidation that's happening with that as well. So when it goes from version 9 to 16, what is the integrity of the code that's being transferred from one version to the next? And we need to look at the regression testing on that. Then there's the multi, omni, opti, and cross-channel communication that we're seeing. Pick one. They kind of all mean the same thing. We're seeing opti communication because it's optimal compared to what the customer's preference is. So we've just started to see a little bit of opti. Opti and omni they're all the same thing, really. Other disruptors are, what happens with your legacy data? How do you get your legacy data into your new applications? Chatbots. We were talking a little bit earlier about connected insurance. In Canada, we just came back from, and there was a lot of presentation on chatbots and how that's becoming big in that industry because you want to be able to get pricing out, or you want to do an online quote or something of that nature. A lot of it is being converted to a chatbot. Social media is big, bi-directional customer communication, the APIs John just talked about, that's all big right now as well. All disrupting our regular, I'm going to send you something and I'm going to communicate with you kind of a thing. Skip had mentioned this earlier, and this is the slide. So when you're talking about document omni-channel, it used to be very linear. So communicating with customers was linear. They called in, you answered the phone, you gave them the price, they bought your product, they paid. Bing, 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 very linear. Well, not anymore. I call this the tornado. So anywhere along any of these points, your customer could have a question, they could acquire something, they could ask you for information, anywhere in here. And the whole idea is to be present at all of those touch points so that you can get the information back to them. And in order to do that, you need either an API, like John talked about, or customer communication management, or customer experience tools that Skip had talked about earlier. That's where we come in. So Compart, our philosophy is to focus on the content. You deliver the content according to the customer's preference. Back to that Multichannel kind of delivery type of a thing. The formats to attain the Multichannel can be managed by our solutions. And these are the formats that we work with, so it's pretty robust. And then we don't have API on there, but we should do. That's the direction that we're headed. So let me go back. There we go. So in real life, how is this affecting us every day? So for those in print production, we can take information from a legacy system, and maybe that information then, or that data is going out to a new type of a printer that has a completely different PDL, page description language. You need to have that converted. So then when you go back and take a look at all of these different channels and all of these different PDLs, inputs and outputs that we work with, we're able to do that conversion. Other things are quality and compliance. So we have tools that you can take a look at before and after iterations, and the changes will occur in the middle. We'll get more to that in the future of this presentation. And also the different barcoding. So sometimes if you have different machines, I mean, back in the day I was with Pitney Bowes Software. Our competitor was Bell & Howell. They had big console inserters. The Pitney Bowes barcode was read from top to bottom, yet Bell & Howell read from bottom to top. So folks who had mixed shops who wanted to do workload balancing needed to change that barcode direction on the fly. And that's an example of what we can do with that. Outbound communications, we talked about multi-channel already. One of the big things my customers are telling me they're seeing is 508 compliance and making sure that online documents are compliant so that the visually impaired and otherwise impaired individuals can see those documents. I'm working with someone right now in the federal government. They're saying that while this mandate has been around since 2015 and actually written in 2012, federal government is now cracking down. So even the federal government themselves are not compliant, so they know they need to do so. This has been mandated, and heavy fines are going to hit the news shortly. You'll see that coming up. I talked about legacy systems already, being able to get rid of those systems that are kept alive just so that you can reach into the database and pull out the right data. Maybe you don't need to have those legacy systems anymore. If you convert that data into the format that can be used, you may be able to save some money and release some of those old systems. We can also, this says central document archiving, we can also send a copy of a document that's being sent, either electronic or print, to an archive. And that archive can also be 508 compliant as well. Quality management. So one of the tools, I had left a pamphlet, little spot the differences pamphlet with everybody. That's one of our tools. That's a comparison tool. So you'll have, again, like I mentioned a little while ago, on the left side of the page will be the, what we call the can't remember the name, but what we call it. The reference page. Yeah, thanks, Raj. The reference page. On the right side, you have the candidate page. And then in the center, you have all of the changes. And they're color-coded and brought out in pretty easily so that you can see what all those changes might be. We take that down to the pixel level. So that's why the need for the color coding as well on that one. So regression testing for software tools is being used. Rules-based tests, we use that. Template-based document testing we work with as well. So anywhere, you know, and mentioned earlier about the mergers and acquisitions, some of my customers are using this to make sure that the messages for the merger and acquisition is correct on the new documents. Also, they're looking at the branding to make sure the branding is correct as well. Something unique to the insurance industry are the different state messages that have to be put on the documents. So you want to make sure those are well. That's a compliance issue, and that's a severe fine if you miss those. So big issues for customers right now working with comparison tools and so forth. So The last idea here is that solutions help control the chaos. And that's what we have. I'm sorry, Raj?
What kind of PDFs will you support?
Ah. These.
Oh, the comparison?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, for the comparison? Yeah, I can get that list to you. It's not as robust as this, but yeah. It's good. I like HTML. I mean, you're not going to compare an HTML to an HTML. It's just tagging language. Doesn't make sense. But I'll get those out to you on what we do there. So, yeah, good question. Thanks. Any other questions? Excellent. So that's the overview of Compart. And once again, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you joining us.